Madam President, the business pending before the United States Senate is an amendment that I have offered to the Defense Authorization Bill. It is, I think, close to nearing an agreement with both sides about a process for proceeding to have a debate on this amendment and then perhaps, hopefully, a vote sometime as early as Wednesday of this week. But I think it's important to note for the record, because many have already, or some at least, have come down already and spoken on this amendment, that I had hoped to offer this amendment as a second-degree amendment to the hate crimes amendment it's been on the floor now for the past week. The Defense Authorization Bill was brought up early last week. Immediately, this hate crimes amendment was offered. It is a non-germane amendment. It's not relevant, obviously, to the underlying content of the bill, which is the defense bill that sets priorities for our national security interests for the coming year. And yet the Democrat leadership chose to make that the First Amendment to obviously be debated and voted upon. And when they did that, it had been my intention to offer as a second-degree amendment the Conceal Carry Amendment, which is now the pending amendment before the Senate. But it made sense in a lot of ways for me to do that, simply because one of the best ways to help prevent hate crimes against potential victims of hate crimes is to allow them to defend themselves. And the concealed carry permit is something that most states across the country have. What my amendment simply does is allows those who have concealed carry permits in their own states to be able to move across state lines in other states that also allow concealed carry permits. And obviously also to respect the laws of those individual states if there are restrictions on the exercise of that right. But I think it's important to point out that in the whole debate over hate crimes, crimes that are committed in this country, that the victims of those crimes ought to have at their disposal as many ways of defending themselves as is possible. And frankly, there are lots of organizations who have come out and supported this amendment for that reason, because they believe that if you want to prevent those types of violent crimes, those types of hate crimes from being committed in this country, that one way to do that is to allow those individuals who are potential victims of those types of crimes to be able to have a concealed carry permit that might deter a crime from being committed. Now, it's also important, I think, to point out that there are a number of arguments that have been raised against this amendment which just frankly aren't true. First of all, it does not. This amendment, my amendment, does not create a national concealed carry permit system or standard. My amendment does not allow individuals to conceal and carry within states that do not allow their own citizens to do so. And my amendment does not allow citizens to circumvent their home state's concealed carry permit laws. If an individual is currently prohibited from possessing a firearm under federal law, my amendment would continue to prohibit them from doing so. When an individual with a valid concealed carry permit from their home state travels to a state that allows their citizens to conceal and carry, the visitor must comply with the restrictions of the state that they are in. It's been suggested that somehow this preempts state laws. That is not the case. The restrictions that an individual state imposes upon that concealed carry, or those concealed carry laws that individual states have enacted, any individual who has a concealed carry permit in their own state and travels to that state would be required to live under the laws that are on the books in that state. But it does get at an issue, which I think many have raised. And you've got people who travel across state lines all the time, truck drivers who on any given day take a cargo load from one state across several states in this country and want to be able to protect themselves as they do so, in many cases staying overnight in truck stops or pulling over for a nap somewhere, and being able to possess a firearm that would enable them to have some level of self-protection and to deter crimes from being committed, I think makes a lot of sense. And so the amendment is very straightforward. It's very simple. It's simply tailored to allow individuals to protect themselves while at the same time respecting states' rights. So individual states can continue to enact restrictions on that, and every state has those. They may be place restrictions, and I think most states, I know my state of South Dakota, courthouses, schools, those sorts of things there are restrictions against concealed carry in any of those places like that, and many states have those. Those types of laws would apply to anyone who has a concealed carry permit in their own state of residence and moves into another state that also has a concealed carry permit law, they would have to live under the laws of those states. And so I want to make very clear that what the amendment does and doesn't do. And I've heard it said here that somehow this is going to be used to circumvent or to preempt state laws. That certainly is not the case. But it does get at the heart of what is a constitutional right in this country. The Second Amendment in the Constitution allows people the right to keep and bear arms. Now, that is a constitutional right, and it should not be infringed upon. Like I said before, individual state enacts statutes that impose restrictions on that. That is something that most states have, and every state treats this issue a little bit differently. But an individual should be able to exercise their Second Amendment constitutional right and to be able to travel through states, individual states, as long as they live by the laws of those states. And so that's essentially what the amendment does. As I said, it's very simple, it's very straightforward, it's not particularly complicated, and it certainly doesn't do many of the things that have been proposed here on the floor that it does. And I thought it's important to set that record straight. Now, obviously, we're going to have a debate about this in the next couple of days. I think we're going to probably have a debate on a defense amendment here first, and then we'll get on to this particular issue. But I hope my colleagues, as they listen to that debate, will do their best to ferret out and to differentiate facts from myth and facts from fiction, because there are lots of statements that are being made that are not consistent with the facts, and the facts in this are very, very clear. So I look forward to having the opportunity to make that case and to have this issue debated. As I said before, I'd hoped to be able to offer this as a second-degree amendment to the hate crimes amendment, because I think it fits very nicely there. And as I said before, ties into the overall theme of protecting potential victims from hate crimes, from those crimes, allowing them to have a deterrent. Obviously, a concealed carry permit acts as a deterrent and has been proven over time, both in terms of the data that you look at, as well as lots of anecdotal examples to have had the desired effect, and that is to prevent many of these crimes from occurring in the first place. But because the Democrat leadership had what we call here in the Senate filled the tree, in other words, precluded or prevented me offering that second-degree amendment to the hate crimes amendment, we are now offering it as a first-degree amendment, and understand completely the importance of moving the defense bill forward. And we'll simply, I think on Wednesday, after we have a certain amount of time to debate this, bring it to a vote. And I would hope that my colleagues would support this. I think it is. It's an amendment that I think there's broad bipartisan support for. I already have 22 or 23, I think, co-sponsors on this amendment from both sides of the aisle, and I hope that number grows, because it is common sense. It has been very effective in many states across the country, and what we want to use as many tools as we can to deter crime, particularly violent crimes that are committed against individuals in this country. And it seems to me, at least, that a concealed carry permit that is allowed, a concealed carry permit law that allows one who has a valid concealed carry permit in their individual state of residence an opportunity to move freely across this country and to have that constitutional right protected. So with that, Madam President, I yield the balance of my time and look forward in the next day or two as this issue is debated further to getting a discussion with my colleagues here in the Senate in hopes that we can get this amendment enacted on this bill. And I would urge my colleagues to vote for it when the time comes.